Hey, it's Diane from Diane Hockman. Okay, when I started my business, first of all, it was 1999. The internet wasn't what it was. Fancy wasn't really an option. In fact, the ways that I was being taught where I was flyers and what's called pull tabs, which are little posters with the tabbies on the bottom with your phone number on it that people could rip off. I mean, it's very rudimentary methods. Then I graduated up into signs that you'd hang on the utility poles. By the way, disclaimer, those are outlawed in a lot of towns, so don't go thinking about doing those. Check your local regulations. But we hung thousands of them up late at night. We'd run around like criminals hanging up signs. And then, ta-da, I moved up into classified ads. Very fancy. I was running 15-word ads in the local penny savers and stuff. Now, from there, I progressed further. But I was lucky enough to have a mentor that taught me that homemade was acceptable, and that's what I did. Everything I did and everything to this day is homemade. And whether it's a flyer, a postcard, I'm not into fancy graphics, I'm not into fancy video editing. I am getting some stuff done for me. Somebody is doing some cool stuff for me, so you'll see maybe a few fancy things around, but you know, generally speaking, you'll see me hanging out. I got a baseball cap on. I'm sitting in my living room or my office or out in the backyard. You know, I never did much in the way of fancy. I doubt I ever will. And so the other day I was listening to some old tapes from Magnetic Marketing, Dan Kennedy. Guys, if you haven't listened to any Dan Kennedy, you got to get it. Hopefully I'll have a link there for you. But if you're truly a marketer, he teaches you all about direct response. And I've been listening to him for years, and I pulled out some old CDs, and these are old. It's an old set. And I'm just looking at my notes because he said, fancy ain't the answer. And he was talking about businesses, and in his case, he's talking about like local storefronts and doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs, you know, Main Street type of businesses. And he was saying how so many of them would spend so much money on their setup and their graphics and their, you know, all this fancy 4-color printing. And then because they were doing multiple color printing, and remember back then today printing, you can get color copies. Today you couldn't, you know, today you can. Back then it was like a big process. You had to order a lot of copies of your piece. So what would happen is people would order like 25,000 copies of this fancy piece because they were all like, I'm going to be fancy, I'm a business. And they'd order all these copies, and then something would change, and they'd have all of this literature that was no good. Complete and total waste of their time and money. And he said that most of the time you could go further with a simple typed or word process, because they didn't have computers like they do when this was cut, but a simple typed or word process photocopied letter properly written with the right psychology and the right copy, than you could with this fancy, slick, or glossy brochure. And guys, times have changed, but this concept hasn't. I'm watching it all day long. People are going out and they're like deciding, I'm going to get a blog. So they go out and they hire a designer and they spend thousands of dollars on blogs and graphics, and they have all these fancy pictures. You notice me, I got no pictures. Sooner or later I'll get some. But they got all these fancy pictures of them standing like this. You know, it's like, ooh, and they have, you know, sparkles coming off of them and all kinds of stuff. And they go out and they'll spend $2,000 on their blog. And then they'll get like fancy graphics for their videos, and they'll spend another $1,000 on that. And they got an intro and an extra, and it's like cool music and stuff. But they got no traffic, and now they have no money to market with. Okay? Here's the deal. The answer is not in fancy. The answer is in being able to turn a profit and parlay. Turn a profit and parlay. So I had to take my goofy little flyers. They were like this size business card flyers. I got some around. I'll show you guys another day. And they said work from home and junk on it, you know. And I had to parlay getting a sale off of the flyers because I invested like 20 bucks in them. And then I would take that profit and I would buy some more, plus I was able to get some of the pull tabs. And then I would take the profit that I brought in and I was able to move to the next thing. And then I was able to run a classified ad, and then I could have 5 classified ads, and then I could have 10 classified ads. And then I had money to buy more signs. The next thing you know, I had money and I learned how to use autoresponders, and I could buy leads and dump them into the autoresponder. Doesn't work anymore, but it did back then like gangbusters. The idea is to start with what you have and parlay, not dump a bunch of money looking super slick and then running around the internet trying to make believe you're a hot shot. Guys, if you don't have any money coming in, people are going to know it. They can smell you from a mile away. And all you got to do is look around the internet, look around Facebook and YouTube, and there's a whole bunch of people that got all this fancy junk, and it is crystal clear that they ain't making a dime. I mean, there's people on the internet that are broker than broke, and they have these big interfaces and this big drama and this big talk, and they literally can't scrape up plane tickets to go to the seminar that they're promoting. You know, guys, it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to have the proper psychology and the proper copy. That's it. I worked with a blogger blog for years. I just recently got a WordPress one. It doesn't look that great. I still have a better Alexa rank. Alexa's like a website ranking thing than most of the people out there. I don't know how to do all this other stuff. All I know is that homemade works. Homemade how-to booklets, homemade how-to PDFs, homemade how-to videos. Because if you're speaking from the heart and you have something to say that's relevant to people, they'll listen. They don't give a doo-doo about your graphics. What they want to know is, do you have an answer for them? Can you help them? Is there anything you can do to solve their problem? Looking slick, it comes and it goes. Look at the masters that have been around forever. Very few of them are slick. And in fact, most of the biggest gurus, biggest ones, I'm not talking about the predominant ones that you see doing launches and marketing stuff, but the biggest ones, the ones that you think that are gurus, the ones that they go to for counseling, most of them have crappy looking sites. If you go to their seminars, there's no set. They just sit on a couch and ramble. And if you buy any of their CDs, if they even make them, they're just them rambling, because they know so much. They know the value of what they have. They don't need to be fancy. And if you start off thinking that you got to be fancy, you're setting yourself up to hit a brick wall, because every day there's something new fancy, and somebody's going to sell you something else that they're going to try to get you to believe is the answer. The answer's in you. The answer's in your knowledge base. The answer's in your confidence. It's in your posture. It's in your stature. It's in your self-education. It's in your understanding of human nature. So if you want to learn more about this and learn how you can get started now with simple stuff, basic stuff, go over to dianehockman.com. Make sure you get on my list. I send out stuff every week, and I'm doing conference calls and webinars constantly showing you how you can get started now with simple homemade videos, audios, posts, how you can get all kinds of free tools, because if there's a place to get it for free, I know where it is. Join us. I'm always looking forward to finding people that have the drive. This is not about the stuff. This is about your passion to get where you want to go. I'll see you guys later. Take care.